Welcome back. All right, so I remember at the start of the playoffs, a lot of discussion about the East and the West. The East was going to be far tougher to come out of than the West. The West was going to be just kind of a cakewalk. The East would be where the really tough series were. And here's Carolina coming off of a 5 game series win. Florida coming off of a 5 game series win. So that means longer rest, more time off, heal up a little bit. Will this series go very long? We shall see. So Carolina against Florida. Now, if you're a Florida fan, yes, I wore Boston in round one, Toronto in round two. You can decide whether or not I'm trying to reverse jinx or what. Sure, why not? There's always those theories out there on which jerseys I'm going to wear and all that. But the interesting thing is these teams know each other. Back in 2021, when there was just the divisional play, these teams met 8 times, and Carolina won 6 of the 8. The other 2 they lost in extra time. So Florida didn't beat them in regulation. Now, that changed. In 2021, 2022, they met 3 times. Carolina didn't win a single game. This year, Carolina was 2-1 against the Florida Panthers. On November 9th, or 19th, I should say, it was a 3-0 win for Florida. Spencer Knight had the 40-save shutout in that one. December 30th, it was a 4-0 win for Carolina, a 19-save shutout by Ronta that night. So both goalies with shutouts, not likely to be the starters in this series at the very least. We'll see whether or not either of them make an appearance at some point. April 13th, a 6-4 win for Carolina at the end of the season. Burns had 2 goals in that one, and Gudas had 3 assists. So, yeah, whatever's going to happen in this series, it should be very, very interesting. These teams have shown they can beat one another. And, you know, for conference finals, this is only the second time Florida's been in the conference finals. Kudos to them. It's the first time they've made it in since 1996. They went all the way to the final that year, meaning they've never lost a conference final. On the Carolina side, they have. They lost the conference final in 2019 against Boston. They lost it in 2009 as well. They did win the Cup in 2006, though, which is something Florida hasn't done. Now, this is a series that's very interesting. So I'm going to look at the players here, and we'll go through the player stats. Then we'll get into the really interesting part of this as well. Sebastian Aho is the leading scorer for Carolina. Not a surprise. In 11 games, he has 5 goals and 5 assists. What's been maybe a mild surprise here is the depth scoring and the players who've been doing the scoring. Martinuk is right up there. 11 games, 3 goals, 7 assists, 10 points. Jesper Fast, 11 games, 5 goals, 3 assists, 8 points. Very good run. Seth Jarvis coming into his own, 11 games, 4 goals, 4 assists, 8 points. And then you've got Jordan Staal, 11 games, 2 goals, 6 assists, 8 points. He will be against both of his brothers in this series. Yep, there will definitely be at least one Staal in the Stanley Cup final. Burns, 11 games, 2 goals, 6 assists for him as well. Kotkaniemi has had a good playoffs. 11 games, 3 goals, 3 assists for him. Necas, 4 goals, 2 assists for him in 11 games. Pesce, 2 goals, 4 assists. Slavin, 2 goals, 4 assists. Nason, 3 goals, 3 assists. Notice, all of these players having played 11 games. Health is important in the playoffs. We talk a lot about depth. Well, health is important too. When you got both, and Carolina's had both, you tend to do pretty well. Freddie Anderson, 5-0 in these playoffs, a .931 save percentage. There was a time where Freddie Anderson's reputation in the playoffs wasn't fantastic. That time is past. Ranta, 3-2 in the playoffs, .906 save percentage. Kochetkov has just made the appearance for worth 1 loss, an .818 save percentage, but very small sample size there. Then you get to the Florida side of things. You got Matthew Tkachuk in 12 games, 5 goals, 11 assists, 16 points. He's been excellent. And again, even when he's not producing, very prominent out there. Verhaeghe, 12 games, 5 goals, 7 assists, 12 points. After his first career 40-goal season, Carter Verhaeghe just continues to be quite the story. Montour, 12 games, 6 goals, 3 assists, 9 points. I wasn't sure if Montour could follow up what he did in the regular season in the postseason, but he absolutely has. Barkov, 12 games, 2 goals, 7 assists, 9 points. The back checking by Barkov, his ability to create turnovers is fantastic. He is one of the better two-way forwards in the game. Sam Bennett, 11 games, 4 goals, 4 assists, 8 points. I would expect Carolina fans to dislike Bennett at the same rate that both Boston and Toronto fans have so far in the playoffs. He is an agitator. Reinhart, 6 goals, 2 assists for him in 12 games. So Reinhart, after what was kind of an up-and-down regular season, very good in the postseason. Lundell, 1 goal, 6 assists, 7 points for him in 12 games. Duclair, he missed the 1 game, but he's had 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points in the games he has played. He's played 11. Cousins, of course, had the big overtime goal last night to send the Florida Panthers into the conference final. He has 2 goals, 4 assists for 6 points in 12 games. Gustav Forsling, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. Continues to make both the Canucks and the Hawks look bad for passing on him and not keeping him around. That's in 12 games as well. And Ekblad has missed 1 game in the playoffs. He has a goal and 4 assists. So again, health is really important. These are teams that have kept things together pretty well. Bobrovsky, 7-2 in these playoffs, a .918 save percentage. Lyon, 1-2 in the playoffs, a .902 save percentage. I saw a lot of comments last night about how, Florida, they had a hard time and there's no way they're going to beat Carolina. But at the start of the playoffs, almost nobody gave them much of a chance against Boston. And then against Toronto, again, Toronto were the favorites. So why can't Florida beat Carolina? I don't have an answer because I've seen Florida knock off 2 of the better teams in the league already. So I'm not taking anything for granted here. I think Carolina is the better team overall. They're scoring 3.64 goals per game. So Carolina's doing in the playoffs what they struggled to do during the regular season. They're getting the puck in the net. They're allowing 2.55 goals against per game. Interestingly enough, with Florida, they're scoring 3.33 goals per game. They're allowing 3.08. Now, a lot of that's from the Boston series. Against Toronto, Toronto didn't have more than 2 goals in any single game against Florida. So Florida's defense and goaltending's definitely picked up since they were down 3-1 against Boston. The power play numbers, 18.9% for Carolina, 27.6% for the Florida Panthers. So a bit of an advantage there, but the penalty kill, big advantage for Carolina, 90%. On the Florida side, 65.8%. So if Carolina's power play breaks through against a penalty kill that's had its issues for Florida, that could be a big difference maker as well. And then the shots per game, which tells you Carolina, they like to shoot. 33.3 shots per game. They've allowed 27.8 shots per game. On the Florida side, they've had 31.7 shots per game as opposed to 35.3. And then we get into the really interesting part of this series, because I've seen a lot of people saying, it's 2 Southern teams, who cares? This is a really uninteresting conference final. Nobody's going to watch this. Nobody's going to care. The guys behind the bench, there's going to be a little bit of a friendly competition here, I do think. I don't know how friendly it's going to be by, say, Game 3, but it's going to start off, I would think, as a pretty friendly rivalry. So you got Paul Maurice on one side. You got Rod Brind'Amour on the other. Paul Maurice was the Carolina Hurricanes coach back in 2002 when the Carolina Hurricanes went to the Stanley Cup final. Now, by the time the 2006 Cup rolls around, Maurice was out. Peter Laviolette was the coach. On that 2006 team, Rod Brind'Amour. So Rod Brind'Amour was coached by Paul Maurice in 2002, got all the way to the final, won a Stanley Cup with Peter Laviolette and coach in 2000 as the coach in 2006, and now Brind'Amour is the coach of the Canes against Paul Maurice and the Florida Panthers, and so this will be interesting. Brind'Amour may have some insight on Maurice that maybe other coaches don't because he's played for Maurice. Maybe Maurice's coaching style's changed completely. One of the interesting things, too, if you're looking at it from the coaching perspective, is all season it looked like Maurice's coaching didn't quite match with the team style, and Florida might have made a huge mistake getting rid of Andrew Burnett. Playoff time, they've been very good. And not only that, but the month going into the playoffs, Florida was excellent. So it is going to be an interesting series. I'm looking forward to covering it. I don't expect big view counts on the recaps of these games, but I think they're going to be fun to watch. And so for people who are saying, I'm done, I'm not watching the playoffs anymore, I think they're going to miss out because I think this is going to be a fun series. I think there's going to be some goals. I think there's going to be some big saves. And I think, again, by about Game 3, I think we're going to have 2 teams that don't like each other very much. The interesting thing, too, is both of these teams wear red at home. So, again, Carolina goes through the red and black with the Devils. Now they've got another team that wears red in Florida. So nice red matchups here. And maybe Carolina will do as well against Florida as they did in the last round against New Jersey. Florida's a completely different beast, though. That's the thing. Carolina, yeah, they took apart New Jersey and they won that 1 in 5. But Florida's playing a completely different style of hockey. And I don't think it will be that easy. I still think Carolina has the edge. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Again, I think this is going to be a really fun series. I'm looking forward to it. And I don't really have an emotional stake in who wins. This is one thing that my wife told me after Boston got knocked out was she said, well, at least now when you report on it, you're not going to have that upset and that roller coaster you're on from an emotional perspective. You can just watch hockey and enjoy it. And this is true. I intend to watch these games and just enjoy them for the hockey that they provide. hoping for a very entertaining series, and I think we'll get it. Let me know your thoughts. As always, hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.